Okay, sorry about that, everyone. New microphone, having some audio issues, but looks like I fixed it. Again, thank you for joining, everyone. Let's get started. Thank you for taking the poll. I'm going to go ahead and in the poll, we got a lot of great responses here. Okay. So, again, my name is Cooley. I'm the Targeted Outreach Director for the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, also known as the DFPI. Today, we're going to be talking about how to protect yourself from scams that are targeting military and veterans. Let's jump right into it. So, first, a little bit of legal disclaimer, housekeeping here. Your cameras and microphones have been turned off for the duration of this webinar, but please use the Zoom's Q&A feature to submit your questions. I do have a dedicated time at the very end to answer as many questions as I can, as well as there's been some questions that were emailed in, and I'll get to those if I can. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the presenter. They do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the DFPI. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not legal or financial advice. And I do have an email, which if you have questions, by the way, we are recording this webinar and we will be publishing it to our YouTube channel. I will be sending everyone who registered for this webinar a link to that webinar recording, as well as a copy of the slides. So you'll have all that. But if you would like to have us come provide this presentation to you and your community, your own organizations, please email us at that email address. It's outreach@dfpi.ca.gov. Okay. Quickly, just talk about the DFPI. Who are we? What do we do? What is our role? The DFPI is California's financial regulator. Our purpose is to maintain a fair, healthy, and trusted financial marketplace for all Californians. We do this through enforcement and regulation of a number of financial laws on a variety of financial services, products, and professionals all throughout California. And then we also provide free presentations. So in-person webinars, seminars, workshops. We do this all throughout California to help inform and protect consumers and to help prevent them from falling prey to frauds and scams. For more information, we have a dedicated section on our website where we publish our news articles, consumer alerts, a list of all the different events that we do. Please check that out. The link is dfpi.ca.gov/consumers. Okay, sorry, real quick here. One last plug before we jump right into the content. You are protected. Just a reminder that you're protected by the California Consumer Financial Protection Law. It was passed in 2020 and it expanded protections that gives us, my department, the DFPI, the ability to protect consumers from unlawful, unfair, deceptive, or abusive acts, business acts and practices. It authorizes us to oversee, supervise, and register financial service providers that were previously unregulated. It increases the DFPI's public outreach and education to vulnerable populations, and it does so much more things. So to learn more, we do have a dedicated website, web page, where you can learn all about it. The link to that is dfpi.ca.gov/ccfpl. Okay. So May is Military Appreciation Month, and just starting off, I want to say thank you for your service. Whether you're a veteran, whether you are currently serving, whether you're deployed, thank you for your service. By the way, if you do not know, I'm myself a veteran, and I've gone through this, and I do appreciate, as well as I appreciate the service that the volunteerism and the service that our service members are out there, and of course the service that our veterans have done. So again, just an acknowledgement. May is Military Appreciation Month, and thank you for your service. With that, let's talk about why service members and veterans are more vulnerable to scams and fraud, right? Scammers are more likely to target the military community because military families may relocate frequently. And when you do that, you have less of a network that you can trust, right? Especially if you're, again, living far away from family. Maybe you change your church group. Maybe you change your community groups that you're part of because you have to move around so much. It makes you vulnerable, right? Many service members are, for the first time, living on their own and earning a paycheck. And that makes them vulnerable, right? They don't know, they may or may not know what is legitimate, right? What are some legitimate investment opportunities? What are some legitimate issues that may come up their way? So again, lacking that network of trust or individuals that you can go to for help, uh, especially if, again, living on your own for the first time, makes you vulnerable. Veterans are targeted with tactics that relate to their military background, benefits, or sense of trust. It's no secret that veterans, military service members, have a sense of community with each other, but at the same time that can be leveraged against them, right? Because again, scammers can pose as other military members or veterans themselves. They could pose as services, which are provided to veterans and military service members. So we want to be careful about that. Deployed service members and their families have limited connection to each other. Again, I was deployed twice, and I'm very aware of this, right? You don't have a direct connection or a quick ability to call your family members. Same thing, your family members may not have a very easy way to connect with you, right? You can't just pick up your cell phone. You can't just check your email immediately. So it's very difficult for deployed service members and their families to connect to verify information to make sure that everything is okay, right? Friends and family members, service members, and veterans share personal information on social media and online. This was a big thing when I was deployed. It's called OPSEC, right? Operations Security. Basically, we were taught significantly how important it is to not share any information, right? And it's for operational security. Or you don't want to tell people that you're deployed. You don't want to tell people. Sometimes you don't even want to tell people that you're a service member, because again, when you are deployed overseas, or even if you're a veteran, those scammers could use that information to social engineer, right, or leverage against you. So be careful, right? If your family's members, God bless them, or say, hey, my son, my daughter, my husband, my wife is deployed overseas. They put that on social media. That's an easy target for scammers to see and say, hey, how can I leverage this against that person, right? Next, service members and veterans are part of communities that can be infiltrated and exploited by scammers, right? So again, service members and veterans are part of many different communities. So whether it's your squad, it's your platoon, whether you're part of the VFW, right, a veterans group of some sort, these are communities, and they can be infiltrated by scammers. It could be a Facebook group, like a veterans Facebook group, right? A veterans hiking Facebook group can be infiltrated by scammers, and then that scammer is going to build that trust and then leverage it to try to get money or maybe solicit some kind of scam to the veterans or service members. So be very careful of that. And then the other thing is veterans and service members may not know their rights very often. And in fact, I was in this camp as well. You don't really talk about all your rights because there are a lot of protections for service members and veterans, but it's not really laid out easily and in a simple way that service members and veterans can just pick up, read more, and get more information about. That said, what are your rights as a military service member or a veteran? So the Military Lending Act is, so I'll put it this way. I don't have the time to go through all of this, but there is a link to the DFPI's website where we talk more about this. We list some information, and then we link out to direct sources, which you could get a lot more information about. So Military Lending Act, there's the Service Member Civil Relief Act, right? The Military Lending Act gives certain caps about loans. Service Members Civil Relief Act is for service members who are deployed, and it kind of gives them a lot of different rights there. For student loans, the military can actually get a deferment for payments on their loans, as well as some interest rates depending on what kind of loans they have. There's a HEROES Act waiver. There's also the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which military members may be eligible for. Again, more information on the DFPI's website. Please go to this link. Again, these slides will be made available to you after the webinar, and you could click on it, go directly to the link, get more information. Okay. So let's talk about scams that target the military and their families, by the way. By far, the largest category of scams that target military members and their families is imposter scams. And what is an imposter scam? That's where a scammer is basically posing as someone or an organization that is legitimate, right? So the first one that is very common is charities and funds for service members, right? So there are a lot of different legitimate military and veteran charities out there. And funds for service members, right? Whether it's to support the service member or a GoFundMe of some sort, right? There are a lot of legitimate ones out there. However, I would caution you to check before you just start giving money away, right? charitynavigator.org. They're an amazing organization. You get more information about the charity before you donate. If someone is calling you and posing as someone from a charity, someone who is trying to support a service member financially, and they're asking you for help, verify information first, right? That's an easy one that scammers can pull your heartstrings, especially if you're a veteran. You understand how hard it is when you're deployed overseas, and you want to give to a charity or service members to help support them. Double check first. You don't want to give money to scammers. So this is another one. This one's for more for military members, right? The Defense Finance and Accounting Services, also known as DFAS. They're basically the payroll system for the military, right? So whenever, as a military member, when you're deployed, you want to get money, you want to learn more about your earnings and stuff. You go to this particular department. They usually have some kind of it's a counter where you talk to them. You could actually get an advance on some of your pay on your pay if you need it for whatever reason. However, if someone is calling you, contacting you, maybe they're contacting your family and they are posing as DFAS, and they might say something like, "There's something wrong with your account. We need your personal or financial information." Double check, right? Hang up, say thank you, hang up, and call DFAS directly to get more information. Don't just start sharing your personal or financial information. Another one I've heard about is scammers posing as military police. So they could be scammers posing as military police contacting your family and saying something like you're in trouble. Or maybe it's the military police or the scammers posing as the military police contacting you as a veteran or a service member and saying that you have some problem, right? Maybe a speeding ticket, maybe you ran you have a parking ticket, maybe you ran a stop sign, that kind of a thing. Double check first, right? Say thank you. I will call you directly. What is your unit? What is your name? And then contact that unit directly, especially if they're posing as military police. Could be base military police, could be just a phone call, right? Someone posing as some unit somewhere. So be very careful, verify information again before you start sharing your own financial or personal information. And then, of course, we have scammers who are posing as your team members or your leadership or your organization or other military members. You always want to be careful, right? And again, this goes for service members as well as their families, as well as veterans, right? Scammers will pose, especially if this, by the way, if this information is publicly available, right? If your unit commander has his information on the website somewhere, a scammer could take that information and pose as your unit commander, right? How would your spouse know what your unit commander is supposed to sound like, what his voice, his or her voice is? So be wary of that, right? Anyone calling you who you do not recognize, who's asking you those, red flag questions. What is your personal information? What is your financial information? What is your status? That kind of thing. Kind of red flags. And, I always recommend having a code word to verify that information. But you could always just hang up and then call that person directly, right? You should have a direct contact to your team members, your leadership, any other organizational members, right? Military family support groups, right? So like your family readiness groups. Those are very important, especially when you're deployed overseas. But of course, scammers could pose as those groups as well. So be very careful of that. Something else I hear about is online dating. long distance relationships when you're overseas. It's a whole other thing. And, sometimes when you're very disconnected, um, you are more vulnerable, right? It's harder to, it's easier for scammers to pose as a love interest, and because you can't meet in person, you're deployed overseas, or maybe you're deployed at home, but you just can't leave the base, right? So again, very easy for scammers to do some kind of online dating romance scam. Be very careful with that. And then of course we have the government agencies, utilities, banks, that kind of thing, other services that scammers may pose as, right? They may call you or your family and say that there's an issue with your utility bill, that you need to pay it, or they'll turn off the water, or they'll turn off the electricity. Um, or maybe they'll say they're the IRS and there's a problem with your tax return. You need to give them personal or financial information, that kind of thing. So be careful. And then of course the Veterans Affairs, scammers posing as the VA or the VA hospital. There's also things like military and veteran discount scams, right? Whether it's online, maybe you see something on social media saying, military and veterans can get 20% off. You could buy here. It could be anything. It could be a car. It could be, some kind of, knife. Well, that's usually watches, knives, tactical pens, that kind of thing that military people, including myself, like to buy, and they might be offering you some kind of quote unquote discount, but in reality the product may or may not be real, and they're really just trying to get you to buy into it. And then we have job scams. This is a big one, especially nowadays, where there's a lot of individuals who are trying to there are individuals who are transitioning out of the military, as well as there are individuals who are just trying to get jobs, right? So there's employment scams. Those job listing sites do not vet. They do not verify the legitimacy of the jobs that are posted on their listing site. So be very careful. Check the information. The best thing I always tell everyone is, if you see a position you really like listed on one of those listing services, look at the company and go directly to the company's website, because they should have published it there as well. So these are the most common types of scams that are targeting military and their families. Let's talk about veteran scams, right? So the FTC estimated that in 2023, veterans, service members, and their families reported 477 million in losses to fraud. So one of the things you want to be careful is companies, and you want to look out for companies or representatives claiming to be from the VA, right? You might get a phone call, you might get a message or an email from someone saying they are a representative of the VA. Be very careful. Always verify first. Companies, be careful of companies who say that your VA benefits can only be obtained with their help, right? These companies may not be affiliated with the VA or could be charging illegal fees for their services. Also, companies unwilling to share their specific identifying information. So 3 big bullet points here. It's a way of basically saying verify information first, right? Check to make sure, check credentials. And again, individuals who say they represent the VA may not be actually true, right? So check on that. More scams that target veterans, right? We've talked about some phishing scams, which is again a form of imposter scam. Scammers posing as government agencies, right? The VA, IRS, Medicare, local, state, federal authorities, even law enforcement. There are some scams that charge for free military records, right? Scammers may have fake websites or claim to help veterans access their military records or medical records for a fee. Again, all that should be available to the service member, to veterans. You just have to go to the right place. Mostly it's just the VA. They'll kind of guide you to where you could get a copy of your records for free, by the way. Fake investments, military pension funds. In this fraud, someone will approach you offering bigger pension payments in return for upfront investments, right? Be very careful there. It may not be legitimate. It highly likely is illegitimate. So be careful. And then fake government grants and other programs. So again, the scammers or the fraudsters have some kind of secret government program, and you need to pay into it or buy into it, or to get that grant, you have to share your personal or financial information, right? So be very careful. Double check the legitimacy. I know they might say it's some secret program, some secret grant. That's not true. For the government, everything is supposed to be transparent and open, and you should be able to get information. There's no such thing as secret government programs for grants, at least. So be careful of that. Let's talk about some more some scams that target veterans. So things like predatory loans and claims, right? So these are loans or investments that are promoted as just for veterans or just for service members. But in reality, they might have higher fees or higher interest rates. Be careful of that. We have pension poaching. That's what it's a financial scam that targets veterans and their families who are potentially eligible for other VA benefits. So basically, the scammer or the fraud is basically trying to take the pension away from the veterans, their survivors, or their families. Affinity scam, we talked a little about this. That's where scammers pose as veterans or service members who need help. Educational benefit scams, that's where fraudulent institutions, could be a fake school, right? Fake university. They offer degrees or certificates that are not real, and it's a waste of a veteran's educational benefits. And we talked about employment scams. There's also housing scams, and then romance scams. So I could definitely talk more about these, but I just want you to be aware that all these exist, and it's very important to be careful. The other thing I want to talk about, and I think it's very important nowadays, especially, you want to be aware of scammers using artificial intelligence, also known as AI. They use AI to enhance their scams, to make it more convincing and to make it more difficult to detect, right? So here are some common AI scams. AI voice cloning. That's where there's a artificial intelligence program, could be on the web, and it can take someone's voice, right, and clone it, and then the scammer will just type out whatever they want to say, and it will use that voice, and they'll call you, right? Whether it's a service member, whether it is a veteran, whether it's a service member's family, and they'll use that voice, that cloned voice, to ask for things like money or personal or financial information, right? Be very careful of that, right? Deep fake photos, images, videos. You could also deep fake like letters, right? So be very, very careful when you get photos, images, and videos. Verify authenticity. You get letters that are kind of asking you for things or asking you to do things, asking you to click on a link or go to a particular website. Be careful, right? Letters, emails, all those could be faked with AI. Fake websites, fake chat bots. Again, be very careful. If for family members of service members who are deployed, if you get a message on Facebook or something saying, please, I want to talk to you, please click on this link, and it takes you to some chat room. Again, scammers could use those AI chatbots to pose as your deployed service member, right? And then, of course, we have all those different types of phishing attempts. Phishing attempt is just basically where the scammer is using information as bait, right? So it could be social media, stuff they found on social media. It could be something they learned about your commander's information, right? They're using that information to bait you, right? To get you to share operational information, personal information, financial information. All of this stuff is gold to them, right? So how do you protect your friends and family? How do you protect yourself? I highly recommend a family code word. What is a family code word or a challenge phrase? We call it a challenge phrase. So if you, what would happen is if you're on phone call or maybe you're on a chat or you're messaging back and forth, and they ask for your personal financial information, maybe operational information, which you should never transmit over unsecured channels. But the point being is, if they're asking you for personal financial information, give them a challenge, right? It usually, so a challenge word, they should know already, and they should know what the correct password would be. So the example I always like to use, in World War II, if you're a big World War II history nut like I am, the Allies used flash, right? So you're doing a patrol at night, it's dark, you don't know who's coming your way. you would use the challenge or code word flash. The correct response would be thunder. Now, if they didn't give you correct response, you could engage them, right? Because you don't know if they're friend or foe, enemies, that kind of stuff. So that's very similar what a challenge phrase or a family code word would be. I have one for my kids when they're at school and I'm going to pick them up, right? If I send someone to pick them up, there's a family code word. So my kids know that they're not supposed to go with any strangers unless they are given the correct family code word. So that's a great way to protect yourself from that voice cloning, deep faked photos, videos, that kind of thing, chat bots, and even phishing attempts. The other thing is you want to always verify information and credentials, right? Someone is sending you information. It looks legitimate. It looks like a legitimate email requesting for your information, asking you to click on a link. Double check first, right? Go directly to the point, the source. It could be your family readiness group. It could be your command structure, your leadership team. Ask them, hey, I got this letter. Is it legitimate, right? Talk to others you trust. Again, one of the great things about being part of a community, right? Whether it's a military community, whether it's a veterans group, you have others who have probably seen this kind of thing, and scams, that is, and they could point out the red flags, or they can at least slow you down and point out the red flags that you missed, right? And then, of course, we talked a lot about limiting the information you share. Again, OPSEC, you don't want to share. I would just not share any information on social media. I mean, I would barely share it with my neighbor unless I absolutely trusted them, because they could go on social media saying, my neighbor, I support him, or him or her, and they are deployed, thank you for your service, that kind of thing. That can be triangulated to your house. And so be careful who you share information with, where you share information with, and then how much information you share. Okay. I do want to quickly talk about precious metal scams. It is a thing that's happening, and I'm not going to read this entire slide, but it's for you. It's one of those things, I don't know why. Service members love to get into precious metals. When we're overseas and we're making money, we want to think about how can I make this money work for us? What investments can I put into? And precious metal seems to be one of those things, right? Gold, silver, platinum, even stones, diamonds, rubies, that kind of a thing. It sounds like it's a great thing to invest in. I would say do your research. Make sure it's legitimate. It's very hard to buy precious metals overseas unless you have someone you trust. And of course, you don't want to be walking around with gold bars. So the point being is beware of any kind of precious metal vendors, social media ads saying they're selling, gold or silver coins, that kind of a thing. Be careful, right? Check, verify before you buy that stuff. Could be fake, right? You never know, especially when you're overseas. Really hard for you to verify. Let's talk about some money apps and transfer scams, right? Before you send money through an app, right? So there's lots of different types of money apps out there: Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. There's so many different types of one. Before you send money through an app, number one, always make sure you're sending money or accepting money from the correct person. Taking a couple of extra minutes to verify that person is legitimate, that they are the person you're supposed to be sending money to, is going to save you a lot of headache, right? Make sure you have the physical product or service has been completed, and do not accept any payments from someone you don't know, right? So very, very important. I know Cash App, when I was deployed, there wasn't really any options for, I was deployed a long time ago. So there wasn't really options for you to use your smartphone to transfer money to your loved ones or your service members. Nowadays, there's a lot of options, but again, the point being here is be very careful. If someone is contacting you saying, hey, I'm deployed, I need some money, can you please Venmo me or Zelle me some money? Be very careful, right? Check with their family members first, right? And connect with them first. They'll understand, right? Any service member will absolutely understand your hesitancy as well as your wanting to verify before you send money off. Okay. Oh, and also another one I forgot here, just added it. Do not send money back as a refund or overpayment, right? What does that mean? That's where let's just say you're buying something on Facebook Marketplace for like $10, right? Or let's say you're selling something. You're selling something on Facebook Marketplace for like $10, and someone contacts you, says they want to buy it, and then they send over $100, and then they contact you and say, "Oh, I messed up. I meant to send you $10. I sent you 100 by accident. Can you send me $90 back?" And if you send them the $90 back, they're going to cancel their original transaction for $100, and you essentially just gave someone $90, right? So be very careful. If someone sends you more money than they're supposed to, and they're asking for a refund or overpayment, tell them to go through that payment platform's what do you call it? They have a process, right? There's a process to request fund a cancel transaction. So that's the correct way to do it. Okay. So how can you protect yourself? We talked a lot about the different types of scams. We talked about some red flags to look out for. There's a ton of information. So how can you protect yourself? Well, first, do not respond to scammers, right? The DFPI, we've developed what I call the 6 layers of protection. Your first line of defense, your first layer of protection, do not respond to scammers, right? They are trying to call you, they're trying to email you, they're trying to message you, many different ways. Essentially, they're just trying to get their hooks into you. And it's very difficult. That's the thing. Sometimes as a family member, you might get a call and you might think it's your loved one calling from overseas, right? So you're going to answer that call. That's what the scammers want. They want you to pick up, right? So again, think about using that family code word so you know that's legitimately your loved one. Not the point. The point being is, do not respond to scammers, right? If it is someone calling you don't know, it's usually better to just let it go to voicemail so that scammers almost never leave voicemails. They do, but not, rarely. But if it's legitimate, they will leave a voicemail, and then you can call them back, right? Don't click on any links. Don't call any numbers that are sent to you. Those could all be fake. So do not respond to scammers. Your first line of defense. Your second line of defense, do your research, right? Look for the red flags, verify information, check credentials, go directly to the official source, the company or website. If someone is contacting you posing as your bank, say thank you and hang up, and then call your bank directly and ask them, hey, someone just contacted me, saying that they're you, the bank. Can you give me more information, right? Is this legitimate? And then finally, get help, right? You could always ask an employee or a professional in person versus trying to get something done virtually, which can, again, be easily faked or could be definitely a scammer posing as you, someone. Third line defense, take your time. Scammers love to do what we call they love to put you in tunnel vision, right? They create this sense of emergency or urgency. They're trying to get you to move really, really fast. And when they do that, they get you in tunnel vision, and you miss out on the red flags that you normally would have picked up on. So what you want to do is take your time, slow down, ignore anyone who is threatening you, giving you limited time opportunity, telling you not to share information with others. That's a big one. Asking you for your personal financial information. And then don't make any big financial decisions for at least 24 hours, right? If they're asking you to transfer $10,000, slow down. Think about this, check your credentials, right? Make sure it's legitimate. We talked about not sharing your information, right? Don't share or limit the information you share. So you want to limit what you share on like social media, on websites, forums, other online communities. Emails is a big one, right? If you're exchanging emails between your loved ones, which has sensitive information, here's news. Emails can be hacked, right? They can be infiltrated. So don't share operational security information over emails. Don't share personal or financial information over emails, because your email is a record of your communications. And if someone is able to hijack your email or hack into your email, now they have access to all that information. So be careful about that. Sign up forms, online shopping sites, phone apps. Phone apps is a big one. And I do this too. When you download a phone app and you just say, okay, to all the terms and conditions, That phone app might be asking for a lot of different access to things like your contact information, your financial information, access to other personal information, right? So be very careful. Don't just say okay, okay, okay to apps you download, because again, all that information that it takes is not going to stay in your phone. It uploads all that access information into the cloud. And then if that company becomes a victim of a data breach, now all your information is out there in the dark web. So be very careful. Um, Layer 5 protection, right? Talk to someone you trust. Another person can provide that additional perspective. They can also point out the red flags that you miss, right? Again, I really want to say someone you trust, because your personal situation is going to be very personal. So talk to someone like your spouse, your friend, children who are 18 years old, community leaders, any kind of financial advisor or other professional. Talk to someone else. Again, the first thing it's going to do is slow you down, because you're going to have to take time to talk to someone else. But the other point is that you need that outside perspective to kind of point those red flags, maybe show you things that you didn't notice before, right? Very, very important. And then finally, stay vigilant. That's kind of one, the last line of defense, but also you want to always keep it a constant, right? Regularly check your financial accounts, regularly check your credit reports, because those are kind of your first symptoms, right? That can tell you you've been a victim of a scam or identity theft. You want to regularly check those. This is the other thing about staying vigilant. Scammers know, they know that you're not going to answer the first phone call. They know that you're not going to answer the 20th phone call. What they know is there's going to be a time when you're waiting for a phone call. Could be you're waiting for a doctor's appointment call. You might be waiting for a call from someone who's deployed. You might be waiting for a phone call from a loved one, right? Family member. They know that you're waiting for that phone call, and that's when they're trying to get their hooks into you, right? So you want to stay vigilant. Even if you pick up a call from a phone number you don't recognize, or you get an email or a text message from someone that you might, someone's messaging you saying, hey, I'm Frank from, Second Squad. Can you please, give me this information? It may be legitimate, right? So you want to stay vigilant, right? Don't just start sharing information. The other one here is delete unused accounts. If you have any unused email accounts, if you have any streaming accounts or bank accounts that you no longer use, if you kind of abandoned, close them down. Okay, go directly to, if it's an email account, go to the email service and ask them, hey, can you please close my email account, and very important, and delete all the data, right? All the emails, all the contact information, everything in that email account. I want the email closed as well as all the data deleted. Because if you leave that email account, that bank account, that streaming service that you no longer use, if you leave it open, that is a vulnerability, right? A hacker, a scammer can get into those, an email account which you no longer use. They could get in and they could find all those emails that you used to have, as well as contact information, right? Information from all the previous contacts you've had. So be very, very careful. If you have those old emails you no longer use, have them removed. Of course, use a shredder, dispose of personal financial information documents. This is a big thing. Deposit important mail directly to post office, right? If you are sending your loved ones, especially if they're deployed overseas, some kind of care package, go directly to the post office. If you have a mailbox at the end of your street and you put the little flag up, that's an easy target for mail thieves. If you live in a community where everyone has a mailbox, those mailbox clusters, that's an easy target for mail thieves to come up, hit it with a crowbar or a pry bar, and just take everyone's mail. And they are looking for exactly that. The care packages. They're looking for birthday cards. They're looking for money, but they're also looking for any kind of personal or financial information, bank statements, medical bills, medical statements, right? They're looking for that information, again, to try to do identity theft, or they're trying to use it as leverage in their scams, right? So be very careful. important mail directly to the post office. And then yeah, close your internet browsers, and don't just close your internet browsers, log out of it, and then use anti-theft, anti-scam, anti-fraud gel pens for checks and other signature documents. I can talk more about that if you want to. I just want to again recap. We went through a lot of information, right? If you forget everything, this has been almost an hour-long webinar. This is the most important slide. Remember this: don't respond to scammers. Do your research. Take your time. Don't share or limit the information you share, and then ask someone, talk to someone you trust. Always stay vigilant, and of course, don't forget to report the incident, because this is the thing: scammers are not just targeting you; they're not just targeting individuals. For service members, for veterans, they're targeting our groups, right? You may not be the only one who got a scam message or a scam call. So where to report and where to get help? Local law enforcement is usually the best thing to start out with, right? So if you're an active service member, it could be your military police, right? Local military-based police. They might actually have an active investigation where a lot of service members have been reporting some kind of solicitation, right? Report to your chain command. Okay, again, the scammer got your contact information somehow. It could have been through a newsletter, it could have been through a website, it could have been through someone's email that got hacked. Somehow the scammer got information. They might just be dialing random numbers too, but report it to your chain command. Hey, I got a call from someone who's posing as our unit administrator, right? I want to let you know, and other service members of our team, of our company, that hey, you might get a call from someone posing as the unit administrator or something like that. So report your chain command, because they really should know. We also have the California Attorney General's office, the DFPI. You could always submit a complaint to us. We work with many state, local law enforcements. We may forward you to relevant local law enforcement or other agencies. There's the Veteran Service Member Family Fraud Evasion. It's a long name. They call themselves VSafe. They're actually a really great website. They also have a hotline where you could get more information. Maybe you get a letter that looks legitimate, but you're not sure. Maybe it's an email. Contact their fraud hotline and get more information. Figure out if it's legitimate, right? We have your Federal Trade Commission and their report fraud website, as well as the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, their IC3, which you can report the crime there as well. And then ARP, which we are a partner of, and they're amazing. I love them. They actually have a fraud watch helpline. So there's a link where you could read more about it, but they also have, again, a phone number which you could call. Open to anyone, by the way, anyone and everyone, to just call and ask about if you've been a victim of a fraud scam, how to recover. You could also ask about is this a fraud or scam, and get help and advice. So a lot of different places to get resources and get help. Hopefully this has been helpful. With that, the DFPI is here to protect you and your community. As a reminder, please contact us if you observe or have been a victim of a scam, financial fraud, abusive business practice, right? We want to know, and we want to shut those things down. If you observe any kind of elder financial abuse, again, please let us know. We work closely with Adult Protective Services to help individuals. And then we have a 800 number, as well as a link where you can submit your complaints. So please check that out. With that, we're at our Q&A, and as a reminder, please submit your questions through the Zoom's Q&A. I'm happy to answer them. Looks like we have plenty of time, so I'm going to take one sip of water, and then if I don't get any questions, I'm going to move on to the emails that I got. That was a lot of information, and yes, scammers definitely are targeting service members and veterans, especially in this time where service members are deployed in multiple areas across the world, and that makes them vulnerable. So I don't see any questions yet, but I will answer some of the ones that were sent in. Let's see here. How can I verify if an organization claiming to help with VA benefits is real? So the best thing to do, right, if you get contacted from someone or someone, claiming to be part of an organization or claiming to be the VA, is just to go directly to the VA, right? They have contact information, depending on which VA, right, VA center is near you, or you just call the VA directly and say, "Hey, I was contacted by someone or an organization or a company saying they represent you. Is this legitimate?" Right. So yeah, go directly to the VA. That's kind of the best place to start. You may have to do a little bit of a, what do you call it? They may refer you to different areas, right? Because the VA, it's a very large organization. It's got a lot of different departments, but they will. This is the thing. I love the VA because they will get you there eventually. Right? It takes time. I've used the VA on several occasions. It does take time, but the people working there are super dedicated, and you can continue to ask for help, and they'll try to get you there. Okay. Um, is it safe to give my e-benefits or other login credentials to a representative helping me with a claim? Uh, I would not. That is a big red flag. I would not recommend you sharing login credentials to anyone. And this is the thing; they should not be asking. By the way, if it's the VA, if it's other organizations, they should have access to your account already. So if someone is asking you for your login credentials, big red flag. You should never share your login credentials. So great question, by the way, and hopefully that helps. Yeah, that's a big red flag. Okay, what steps can I take to protect my financial accounts when I'm deployed? Very good question. There's a lot of things you can do. The real question is, how much access do you want to your financial accounts? And I'll give you an example. If you're traveling for vacation, by the way, most banks will have the ability for you to set, right? So you could tell the bank, "Hey, I'm traveling in Mexico. I'm traveling in Canada." When you notify your bank or credit union, and you let them know, "Hey, I'm traveling overseas of some sort," they will know that, hey, if I get any transactions from overseas, it's okay, right? Let those through. So that's kind of the first step you could take. You could notify your financial institutions, "Hey, this is what's going on." But that's not foolproof, right? It's one way to help you access your accounts. The other thing I believe is vice versa. You can, I believe, depending on which financial institution you have, you could also tell them to limit where transactions are happening, right? So again, talk to your bank or credit union, see what services they have to offer. You may be able to tell them, "Hey, I'm traveling overseas. Please freeze my account, or please limit, who uses my account," that kind of a thing. That's kind of your first step. The best thing is, again, contacting your financial institution. The other things you could do is continually, again, this is about being vigilant, continually check your financial accounts, right? So you could do it every week, you could do it every month. You want to look through your bank statements, your credit card statements, that kind of a thing. Check your credit report constantly, because again, with your credit report, individuals may be posing as you, taking out loans, lines of credit, opening up credit cards in your name. That'll all be on your credit report. So you want to check your credit report. By the way, you could check your credit report once a week. That might be excessive, but you could do it like once a month. If you find any accounts that you're not aware of, any new credit cards that you've never opened up, report that kind of stuff, right? And then, of course, looking at your financial accounts, which you could probably do once a week. Check all the different transactions. If you see ones that are weird, that you don't recognize, immediately report it to your financial institution, and hopefully they can not only investigate but also reimburse that money back to you. So good question. That's a really good question. It's difficult. That's the thing. If you have like a credit union and you're overseas deployed, it's difficult to get access to that credit union account. I totally understand. I've been there before. Maybe you might open up like another bank account that you will be able to access overseas, right? Do your research. I'll put it that way. Just throwing ideas out. Great question. Thank you very much. I don't see any questions in the Q&A yet, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the next one. How do I protect myself from identity theft when I'm overseas? Great, great question. And I get this question a lot, not just from individuals who are deployed, but veterans in general. Um, so how do you protect yourself from identity theft? Probably the easiest and most effective way is to put a credit freeze on your credit. So what is that? Um, you have to go to each credit bureau, right? So Equifax, TransUnion, and blank on the Equifax. So the three credit bureaus. Sorry, you want to go to each one. You want to claim your credit profile, and then Experian. I just thought about it now. Thanks. Yeah, someone put it in the Q&A. Thank you. Yeah, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. You want to go to each one. You want to claim your credit profile. That might take some time because you have to verify your identity, right? Authenticate your identity. But once you claim your credit profile, you could put a credit freeze on your accounts. Now, what is a credit freeze? Well, one, if you have a credit freeze on your credit profile, you could still use your debit card, your credit card. You could use them like normal, no big problem. But not even you will be able to open up a new line of credit. You won't be able to open up a credit card. You won't be able to what do you call it? Apply for a rental lease of any kind because your credit is frozen. So you can unfreeze it. That's the great thing. You can freezing your account takes like 10 minutes. And then you can unfreeze it, which by the way takes another 10 minutes, and then you can refreeze your credit, right? It's a great way, again, to protect your credit, protect your your financial ability, because again, when your credit is frozen, even if a scammer, hacker, identity thief has your personal financial information, your social security number, they're not going to be able to open up a credit, a loan, a credit card, a line of credit. They won't be able to do any of that unless your credit is unfrozen, right? So probably, like I said, the easiest and most effective way to protect yourself from identity theft is again freezing your credit. A lot of other things that you could do. It's hard when you're overseas and you're focused on the mission. What I would say is you want to have a what do you call it? A power of attorney to someone you absolutely trust. And so the idea is that person can help you recover from identity theft if it's happening while you're overseas, right? It's very hard to do it while you're overseas, but if someone you trust, right, spouse, family member, parents, they're able to help you to recover from that identity theft. And what do you mean by recover from identity theft? That could be things like getting a new driver's license, right? Getting a new or getting access to your social security card, that kind of thing, right? Your bank accounts. That power attorney would be able to help your family members help you from that identity theft or recover from identity theft. So yeah, you could also put freezes on other accounts, right? Bank accounts, the other thing. I'll throw one more out there, one more suggestion. Credit cards. Use credit cards, not debit cards. You could use your debit card. Be careful where you slide it, where you insert it. But using a credit cards are inherently more safe than debit cards. Well, how? Well, when you use a credit card, you're using a credit card company's money, right? That's their money. And if you slide your card somewhere, especially if you're overseas, and they're able to capture that credit card information, and the scammer or hacker, whoever is using that information, they're taking the credit card company's money. They're not taking your money. If you slid your debit card, they're taking money directly out of your account. And maybe you need to pay for a lease. Maybe you need to pay for credit cards or other things that you need money for. Maybe your family needs that money. It's coming out of that scammer, that hacker, whoever is taking money out of your account if you use that debit card, right? And it's going to hurt your family. Now, if you use a credit card, so that's the credit card company's money, and all you have to do is just put a what do you call it? Tell them that's a fraudulent activity. They may replace your credit card, right? They'll likely shut the credit card down and then replace it for you. They'll do their own investigation, but at the end of the day, especially if it's a fraudulent activity, they'll credit you back any money that was taken into your credit account, right? So again, credit cards more inherently safe, especially if you're overseas. You don't want to be swiping your debit card. That credit card is much more safe. And again, pro tip: get one or two credit cards that are accepted universally, right? Because sometimes when you're overseas, you're at certain vendors and they only accept a particular card type. It's better to have one or the other, so you could always rely on you'll be able to pay somehow, right? Okay. No other questions. I know we're coming up to the end right here. So I'm going to go ahead and move on real quick. Here's another plug. Please, the DFPI, we want you to share your success story with us. Has the DFPI, has our department helped you or your friends avoid a scam or recover from a scam? Your story can encourage others to get help and to understand how the DFPI can make a difference for them. Again, your experience is important. We want to let others know how we helped you. And so please submit your story. Please contact us. You don't need to submit your story. Just contact us and say, hey, I want to share my story. Send it to our email address right there, outreach@dfpi.ca.gov. And again, we'd love to contact you, hear about your story. And then if, again, we don't share your personal or financial information or any of that, but we will take a general version of your story, which you would write for us, and we want to share it with others. Again, just to let them know that they can get help just like you did. Okay. Finally, a reminder, our next Protect Yourself from Fraud webinar is on protecting yourself from rental and real estate scams. That's on June 3rd at 1 p.m. There's a link to it where you can register for the webinar. We're going to be talking about, rental scams, scammers publishing fake rental listings, that kind of a thing. Also scammers publishing fake real estate, house ads, that kind of thing. We're also going to be talking about title fraud, right? That's a big thing that I hear about a lot. I get a lot of questions about. So we'll be talking about title fraud and how can you protect yourself. And then a reminder, the DFPI, we have our newsletter. Maybe that's where you saw this webinar. So if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, please subscribe to us. And then we have our YouTube channel, again, where we will be publishing this webinar. But please check out our YouTube channel, subscribe to us. That way you get notifications when any other webinars we published are done. With that, I want to say thank you. A big thank you to everyone who joined the webinar, as well as all the service members, veterans out there. Thank you for your service. And with that, I want to say thank you. Please take care of yourself and please take care of each other. Goodbye. Have a great day.